this guy down here in the front row in the green phone right there? Take a look at him. He looks like Bill Paul's doppelganger.
That's on.
Wow. It's just such a rowdy. Oh, now it's on. All right, good evening. Welcome, everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order and start, like we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we have no reportable actions from closed session, but we do have a student readmission on which I need a motion.
Approval? Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please. Lori?
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh? Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries, and that brings us back to C4, statements of abstention. Do we have any statements of abstention tonight? Adjustments to the agenda, C5. Board member requests for information, C6. Director Fong.
One of the contracts that we're approving tonight has to do with preschool. And there's preschool at Steel Lane and there's preschool at James Monroe. And it's funded by North Bay, is it Children's something?
North Bay Children's Consortium.
And it is a federal grant, I believe. And I'd like to have some more information about these kinds of things in order for us to start thinking about more preschool. And this, I think, is pre-TK. Does that make sense, Jane? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Oh, Director Anderson.
Last meeting, sorry, did I? Okay, last meeting, I asked about getting information on that coding program that's being initiated at Runner Park, or Katati Runner Park, and I'd love to get a follow-up on that, say within a month or so.
So we're going to be bringing back some information at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Carl.
No, I was anticipating the next item.
Oh. Then let's move on to the next item, C7, approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held August 9th, 2017.
Move to approve the minutes of August 9.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Pugh. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Abstain.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries, which brings us to C8, public comment on non-agenda items. As a reminder to everyone, this is an opportunity for you to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. If you do have an issue to discuss regarding a specific staff member, though, we would ask you to refrain from addressing that issue here as it interferes with the legal investigative process, and that instead you bring that to our Assistant Superintendent Lee. So we will start with Jill Jackson. And after that, Bridget Mansell.
To good effect. Lori, thank you very much for your help in
showing me the manner in which to use this thing. Okay, and I may read my comments. I typically speak extemporaneously, but I want to, for the sake of brevity, not read from the letter itself. And I want to make the points that I've outlined in what I've prepared. This is a letter, an exit interview with colleagues of our site. As you can see, this was a young person invested in her profession and the success of academic programs at our site. She wowed the interview committee and was valued as a member of our community. She was very lucky in her time at our school to be mentored by two teachers of many years' experience and considerable expertise. She was invested in the larger SRCS community as a CCD committee member, as well as a participant in many of the professional development opportunities our district has offered in the 2 years she worked for us. She left, and as you can see by her letter, her foremost reason for leaving was the lack of health care benefits. She chose the lowest plan because it was the most affordable, and she was a young person, and it seemed to her a reasonable risk to choose that plan. However, in the course of the year preceding this one, she had some expenses she didn't anticipate, and it turned out that those expenses exceeded the benefits of her plan, and she had to pay for those things out of pocket. This was her circumstance when she was approached by another former district employee at a neighboring district, a district offering great health benefits. She, like many other young teachers, must consider that over the course of possibly 30 years, the cost of less than full benefits accrues to quite a large sum. By the way, that is true for the rest of us that have only the district as our employer as a source of this benefit outside of the ACA exchange, and we learned this summer how tenuous that may be in the future. I am speaking here for veteran teachers like myself, and I'm also speaking on behalf of married employees as well. If we are considering priorities, think of this. Your employees should be one of them. The district has doubtless saved countless monies over the course of the 12 years that this policy has been in place. But at what cost? We are disheartened, dispirited, and in some cases departing. Thank you.
Bridget, I screwed up the numbers, and John Cortopassi should have been first, and so I'm going to call John and have you next, okay?
I'll be third?
You can be third.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you for being
All right.
fair, but at this point, equity is my focus.
I get it.
So all day, raise it up. Okay, how do I do that? Okay. I'm just going to keep going because I want to go all the way. Okay. All right. So, thank you. All day I've been thinking about what to say to you. Our board of directors, my board of directors, the City School Board of Santa Rosa. I've taught in the Santa Rosa City Schools for 34 years. This is my 35th year, and at the age of, thank you. At the age of 56, you can clap about that in a minute. At the age of 56, you can clap, but just kidding. Now more than ever, I understand the purpose of my career. To support students as they cultivate, discover, and honor their voice. So what can I say tonight in these precious 130 seconds to push your thinking about how you're going to decide to respond to your workers, your beloved teachers. This school board has already demonstrated strong moral leadership. I'm proud to be a Santa Rosa City School teacher in a district that embraces equity. You are a bold, moral board. I teach my students about the value, the vital importance of knowing how to analyze argument, how to present arguments, and this skill connects to what we all hope even more now in 2017, a participatory democracy. So in this fact-finding stage where we are as an SRTA member, in this fact-finding stage, think about the word fact, how that's been rolled around lately since the November election. We got to sort through the facts, right? What are the facts? We discover so many things when we look at the facts. It is just and it is fitting that this money that we find, if there is money to be found, it should be used toward retaining and attracting teachers. I want to be proud in my profession, and as you may remember, my 24-year-old daughter, Savannah, is a second-year high school English teacher in San Leandro, and she, like so many young people, are joining a profession that depends on moral leadership, moral purpose, and that's you. You're the board of directors. You are in charge of creating what you think is important tonight and where you're going to go with decisions. All day I thought about what I wanted to say, and addressing you is easy. Actually, it's really nice to address you, but what's really hard is speaking for such an amazing group of people that deserve to be treated with so much respect right now, especially in light of what's going on politically. So I just urge you to really pay attention to what you know is right. Think about the legacy of the school district. Some of you have served for a long time, and you understand that we need to retain teachers, we need to attract teachers, and we're not going to get any better by continuing to put it off. We have to stay strong and pay our teachers. Thank you for listening, and thanks for serving on the board of directors for Santa Rosa City.
Okay, John Cortopassi and then Barb Lawson.
John Cortopassi, Santa Rosa High School. First off, I'd like to start by thanking my peers, the students, and the community for showing up to this meeting. This is an important meeting that we have to deal with issues. One of the biggest issues facing our district is providing our students with the best possible staff. Over the past 3 years, the LCAP has set a goal of attract and retain, select and retain, and now it's changed to recruit and retain high-quality staff. The verb has changed over the last 3 years, but the problem has stayed the same. What actions has this district taken in the last 3 years to attain that goal? Well, last year, the salaries of select district office officials and classified staff has been raised, while the salaries of the teachers was cut 0.6%. When I came to this district, teachers wanted to teach here. Now, teachers are willing to teach here. I've watched as my peers have left for surrounding districts. I've watched as some of the most talented administrators, like Monica Baldenegro, have left for surrounding districts. I have watched as teachers have been treated in ways that demonstrate we're not valued employees. I've watched as this district once again has tried to implement a new student system on the cheap without the necessary in-depth training necessary for it to actually be used as a viable tool. At Santa Rosa High School this year, we started minus a science teacher, a history teacher, a drama teacher, a woodshop teacher, both attendance clerks, and minus a vice principal. Do we have a problem with select and retain? I think the answer is pretty clear. Enough is enough. This year, I hope to see the district acts in ways to achieve its goals for all of its employees. I hope to see the teachers treated with the respect they deserve and treated as the professionals that we are. Only by your actions can the LCAP goal be attained and make this a desirable district once again. Thank you.
Barb Lawson and then Maddie Doyle.
Hi, is this working up here?
Yep,
Okay.
Barb Lawson and then Maddie Doyle.
All right. Hello, my name's Barbara Lawson, and I teach at LCL in high school. In 2013, I was nominated for California's League of Schools High School Region 1 Educator of the Year. And I've been teaching at Elsie Allen for about 20 years. I've been told many times by the district that students are the reason for all of our work. And I totally agree, totally. I have also been told that they appreciate the teachers. You know, I'm hearing it, but I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. It's been over a year since we've had a valid contract, and even reasonable MOUs have not been approved, and I've heard that they're not being considered. I don't understand. I was a team leader for many years. I've seen many, many teachers, or many, many people that came in and interviewed, were wonderful, and chose another district. And they said the reason was the lack of health benefits. I've seen teachers leaving because they cannot afford the health care because of our benefits. There are many teachers who are approaching their 10th year of teaching, and that's typically how many years of credit different districts will accept. And as they approach it, they say, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stay. I can't afford it, even though this is where I'd like to be. I just heard one say it today, an excellent English teacher. I want to compromise. The word compromise indicates that both sides listen and accommodate each other to an extent. On the other hand, if the district doesn't make the changes needed to get and keep good teachers, including single ones, younger teachers, or those who are married but both of the people work in our district, it won't be enough. I feel this situation's injuring our students. I feel it's injuring their families. I feel like it's injuring the teachers and the staff. I know it's affected my trust in the district and my morale. I will be teaching as hard as I can, I promise, okay? Please change this. Please step out of your box and get out there and help make changes for our students and our school district and all the students' families. Thank you.
Maddie Doyle, and then Lisa Moore.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Doyle. I just started teaching my 5th year at Maria Carrillo High School, and I am a product of Santa Rosa City Schools. Although my Puma pride is completely undeniable at this point, I still bleed Viking red. Tonight, I am seeking help and guidance, but before I ask for something, I think it's only appropriate that I give credit to the people whose help and guidance I've already received. When my 8th grade leadership class needed an administrator to make a fool of himself in the name of furthering school spirit, Jason Lee was there. When my high school choir won first place at a national competition, Lori Fong was the first to congratulate us. When I needed help navigating my first 2 years of college and filling out my transfer applications, Frank Pugh was my man. And perhaps most importantly, when my young adult life broke me into pieces, as young adult lives are known to do, my teachers, some of whom are in this room currently, were there to pick up the pieces and help me carry on. My Santa Rosa City Schools education taught me to know my worth, stand up for myself, and stand up for the people who stand up for me, which is exactly why I'm here today. I'm proud to work in the same district that made me. I like me, and I would love to make more of me. But I'm in a little bit of a pickle that's causing me to question the sustainability of my choice to work here. The cost of our low health plan is almost too much for me to afford monthly. And the offered benefits are so low, in fact, that I can't afford to use the benefits I have. I am one of many amazing young teachers at my school and in this district who are facing the same issue. and many teachers who have dedicated years of their lives to Santa Rosa City Schools are in the same, if not a worse boat. You have incredibly smart, talented, and qualified educators here. And while I like to think that we would agree that they deserve the best, I certainly hope that we can agree that they don't deserve the worst. The kids in this district need them. I should know. I was one of them. During his speech, our president, Will Lyon, is going to show you some numbers in regards to what my future will look like in this district as opposed to districts somewhere nearby. Knowing that I'm standing in a room full of people who have always had my best interest in mind, I simply ask you to think about what advice you would give me about staying and what that says about the future of our district and the future of kids like me. Thank you.
Lisa Moore and then Kristen Reed. Kristen Reed will be up next.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Moore, and I teach at Lawrence Cook Middle School. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to our wonderful board. As most of us are aware, teacher preparation programs have seen a major decrease in enrollment in recent years. There aren't many people, or as many, going into the profession. And we obviously have a shortage. We've seen it in this district. We see it in many of our schools in this district. In order to attract qualified teachers, we all know that we need to have competitive compensation. We are currently at the bottom when compared to the rest of Sonoma County. Not only do we need to attract, but as others have said, we need to retain these teachers. Last year, for example, at our site, 2 of our first-year teachers, both, left the actual profession, completely left. They had support from BITSA. We had invested numerous hours training them to teach the CPM math curriculum. That wasn't enough to keep them from leaving. I can't help but think that the story might have been different if Santa Rosa City Schools had a competitive package. This year, we have a group of 98th graders, who were 7th graders at our site last year, who had a revolving sub every 30 days for the rest of the last half of last year. These same students are now facing an identical situation because we do not have an 8th grade math teacher, so they will be dealing with revolving subs again. I'm not sure this is the education we would want for any of our students. This situation is obviously not sustainable, and things are not going to improve unless you wonderful people and Santa Rosa City Schools offers a compensation package that will attract rather than turn away potential qualified applicants. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen Reed and then Rob Chandler.
I'm up here. Good evening. My name is Kristen Reed, and I teach at Montgomery High School. I have a first period class of 34 sophomores. It's morning, so they're pretty docile. So far, we've done well with the assignments, and they're a pretty solid class. But I already have a handful that I know I need to watch carefully. It's the second week, and they're already getting distracted or avoiding assignments because they think they can't do them. And so I focus more attention on those 4. But what about the other 30? And then I have 3 sections of freshman English. My third period has 24. It's the ideal situation. 24 kids, it's the midday block when they're awake and at their most productive. My 5th and 6th period classes have 34 students. Excuse me, 34 freshman students. After lunch. Is this the best way to ensure the success of the newest students, the ones who need the most support to transition into high school courses necessary for graduation? Everything takes longer with 34 students. Quieting the room, sharing responses, discussion, presentations, conferencing, assessments, writing essays, grading essays. And they need more. more than I can give them because there are 34 in the room. They need so much because they are new and 14 and unsure and hopeful. How do I do them justice? How do I give them all the support and encouragement and firmness and compassion and opportunity that they deserve when there are 34 14-year-olds in the room? The situation is the direct result of the district's practice of allocating sections based on the maximum number of students a teacher can have. This prioritizes dollars over teachers, dollars over students. It creates inflexibility in the schedule when students need to change classes or periods. It's difficult for our counselors to help students get what they need because there's no room anywhere to move them. I get that we need to be judicious with spending, and there's only so much money, but we need a better solution to these overlarge class sizes. This is probably the thing that drives me bonkers the most, that makes me feel undervalued more than anything pay-related. Because I can make more money with time, but I cannot make more time. I have only so many minutes in the room with my students, and if this district doesn't value me, my time, and my students enough to keep class sizes sensible, why do I want to stay? I want to be clear that I believe the individuals in district leadership positions have positive intentions. I don't think there's any mustache twirling happening behind closed doors. But I don't see enough evidence of efficiency, effective communication, or genuine consideration for what teachers and staff are telling you we need. I hear that we're valued. I read it in emails. But as they say on Game of Thrones, words are wind. I want evidence. I want to see these things being taken care of. And if I'm being really specific, I want to see more sections so we're at least under 30 in our classes. Please. Thank you.
Okay, Rob Chandler and then Genevieve Willigren.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate that. So I want to apologize first off. I didn't have time to prepare a full speech. I got to school at 5:30 this morning. Mr. Brady's there probably at 5 every morning. I'm pretty sure Mr. Brady sleeps at the high school. So I'm speaking today as a teacher. It's my 7th year. As a coach, it's my 8th year. I've coached JV soccer, varsity baseball, and both JV and varsity football. I want to speak today about baseball field issues and field issues in general. However, I want to give credit to everybody that came out for the teachers union. This is a very important matter and one that needs to be dealt with. We are professionals. You know, I teach with people that went to Stanford, went to UCLA, have, master's degrees, and people that should be respected. And I know we're at a boiling point. We don't feel respected at this point. To get into some field issues that we've been dealing with, sprinkler issues. We've had issues that have gone on for 8 years. We have a flooded field right now. I shut off the water, which has led to dead grass, broken sprinklers. We have broken backstops and backboards. We have holes in our fencing. We were promised yearly maintenance a couple years ago with a field maintenance plan at Maria Creo that established time periods for aeration, seeding, and rolling to flatten out the field. But somebody forgot about that. The consultant was paid, I believe, over $40,000 for that. Last year, our field didn't get mowed, I honestly think, for the entire year because I mow the baseball field every day during the baseball season. Takes about, not every day, once a week. It takes about 3 hours. And honestly, where I didn't mow, the grass was like 3 feet tall. It was unplayable if I didn't do it. Now, here's the real issue that we're dealing with, too, if that wasn't enough. The district rents out our fields to other teams, right? Well, I went to Rincon Valley Little League. I played out there. I want to support them. But they rent out our fields during our season, you know, and their field rental starts at 5:30 and goes to 7:30. And we've had people try to kick us off our high school field to play their Little League practice, which is an issue for us. Now the district takes the money for the rented field, right? I think it's $15 to rent a grass section for a day and like $20-something to rent an actual field. But where does that money go? Does that money go to the general fund? Or does that money go back to the school? I've yet to see a check that comes back to the school. As a baseball coach, we spend $5,000 a year on our field. Seed, potting soil, fertilizer, we edge it, we mow it, we do it ourselves. We're not supposed to do that, right? In fact, when we try to get the district to actually fix it, they don't. When we try to fix it, we get caught, and they say, you can't do that, you're taking a union job. And it's left us for 8 years with a unplayable field.
Rob,
I know. Yeah, I'll
your
wrap it
time's
up.
up,
Yeah, I respect that. I know Jenny and Bill Carl. My dad's an attorney in town as well. I know you guys full well know the safety issues of the field and the liability of a field. And I think you guys should pay us a little bit of money to help with our field maintenance rather than spend a lot of money when somebody sues the school district. Thank you.
Kathy Shanklin's up next.
All right, can I go? All right. I think you know by now that we have an attract and retain problem. Last March, a childhood friend of mine reached out with the news that he had enrolled in the teaching intern program through SCO. He was looking for a lead on a job. When I encouraged him to apply for an open position at my site, a position that had gone unfilled all year, remember this was March, that's the end of the year, that had had a revolving set of subs. I'm at a different site from the last person who mentioned this problem. His response when I told him, apply for this position, we've got something for you, his response was, and I quote, "Folks have been telling me to avoid Santa Rosa City Schools if I can because of the lousy health benefits." Those were his words. Not only do we have a problem, we now have a reputation. He never even applied for that job. He is now enthusiastically teaching junior high math and maker at the West County Charter in Forestville, which is my alma mater. The students and the educators of Santa Rosa City Schools lost the opportunity to work with this educator, this energetic, excited, vibrant, young educator at the beginning of his career, because finding a way to attract and retain quality educators has not been made a priority by the district. Please change this. Thank you.
Kathy Shanklin.
I can hardly hear you.
Kathy
Okay.
Shanklin.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat or scold or carry on more than what other teachers have presented to you, but I would like to tell you about what we lacked at Comstock Middle School, which really impacts special ed students. The counselor informed me that we started 2014-15 and 2015-16 school years with a school psychologist, but due to illness and other unfortunate circumstances, we lost them fairly early in those years. This left huge gaps for assessing, testing, and IEPs. In 2015, retired school psychologists were brought in to try and help us get caught up, which, despite their best efforts, never really happened. Then last year, we had a school psychologist intern who was overworked trying to get us caught up, as well as maintaining the current caseload. While he did complete the year with us, he has moved to another district. Shock, shock. Now we start this year off, and we have no school psychologist at Comstock, and we are getting further behind. This is a huge disservice to our special education students and their parents, and they deserve quality programs. Also, we're out of compliance. That's a legal issue. What I'm also hearing from other professionals who have more than 10 years in the district, when they tell me, I'm trying to get out of here, I'm like, but you'll lose your service years. And they say, oh, no. I'm entering a master's program and getting my admin, and then I'm going. Because they'll earn more once they start in a different aspect of the profession. But they're still thinking of flight. I want to just propose some way to look at this perhaps a little differently. What if you did a cost-benefit analysis of these two things? The costs of the high-quality training this district offers versus the actual resulting years of service you get from that person you trained. And I would imagine, just speculating, that you're probably losing about 30% of your value because they get the good training here, these new teachers that sign on with us, and then they suffer long enough and they leave. So I would really ask this board to listen to us teachers and give us your first priority. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to reports, and we will start with Santa Rosa Teachers Association. Will Lyon.
Somebody got the blue folder? Yep, I got it. Sorry. I made it's the same presentation. And Mr. Edson has a digital copy. We'll share it with you. If he doesn't share it with you, I'll share it with you later. I'm hit. What? Good teachers can adjust. Good evening, board members and district office employees and SRTA members and community. I really want to thank everybody for coming out. This is an important topic. I want to thank, I would characterize that last hour as polite and professional and caring, but also genuine concern. So I thank you guys for all of those things. I'm representing Santa Rosa Teachers Association. I'm William Lyon, I'm the president, and I'm here to give you our perspective on the numbers of the district, avoiding fact-finding, avoiding mediation. Those things are off the record, but an overall general picture from our perspective. All right. Santa Rosa City Schools has an attract and retain problem. I think I might speed that part up because I think you heard a lot of that stuff. It's hurting our students, it's hurting our schools, it's hurting the teachers that are left behind, it's hurting our community. We have the resources to address this crisis. That doesn't mean it would necessarily be easy, but the resources are there. We are asking you to adjust our priorities to address the crisis right now before things get worse, and we should do it together. I have some numbers. In our bargaining unit, we have 990 members last year. That was the number. 160 of them were new. I put the word teachers, but of course that's counselors, special ed specialists like psychologists. We use shorthand for teachers to save syllables, but we're a lot more than just teachers. only about 40 retired. I don't know the exact number. When we had our retirement celebration, it was 31. So anybody else that retired about that, I'm not sure, but around 40, which means 120 of the people that were hired weren't replacing a retiree. Now, that's not FTE, that's actual bodies. Some of them were part-time, some of the retirees were part-time, but in terms of our bargaining unit, that's what those numbers mean. We also had 17 site administrators for 25 schools. They weren't all new employees. Some of them were teachers moving up, some of them were going sideways or going from assistant to vice or vice to principal, but they were in a new job. And I think we all know that even seasoned educators who take a new job, that's a thing. It's hard to be the first year at anything. I can tell you firsthand later. This year, we have applied for a waiver for up to 40 interns, and I don't know how many that we have hired, but the fact that we applied for it is a signal that we know we're having trouble attracting teachers. I'm told most of those are special ed teachers, and I also understand that we have special ed problems all up and down the state. I would say then we need to be even more attractive in an unattractive field right now. We had 81 in the document that we got. That's a 10-point infraction. In the document that we got the first week of school, there were 81 new hires into our bargaining unit, and on the first day of school, there were 19 certificated job openings, so that's 100. I don't know exactly how that's going to shake out. It's the beginning, and there's still shuffling happening, but that's where we were at on day one when I looked at those numbers. I think that's significant. I think that's a signal that we're having a problem that needs to get corrected. For me personally, the reason I feel like it's a crisis and not like some little problem, it's like a real crisis, when I have lunch with a new teacher and it's April, just like Maddie, first year, second year teacher, and they go, man, it's April, it's May, and the job openings are starting to happen, and they go, should I stay or should I go? And I'm the president of our union, and the right answer is like, man, you should probably apply and see what happens. You might make some more money somewhere else. That's a crisis for me personally. For me, the check mark crisis solved is when I could look at our members and go, no, you should stay. Our compensation is fair, our working conditions is fair, the people that our relationships are good. This is the right place for you to begin and end your career. That's when it won't feel like a crisis for me. Why are they leaving? It's healthcare. I don't know of anybody who's married to a nurse or a fireman or a policeman or somebody else who has coverage who left for better pay. It's not the actual salary side of it. It's the healthcare side. But that can't be blown off. When it costs $20,000 to provide healthcare for your family, that ain't nothing. Like, we have to factor that in. We offer $2,500 a year. That's 40th out of 40 in the county. Cloverdale's on there because they're 39th, and they have 7,800. So they have the worst overall compensation package in the county, but they have 3 times more health care than us. So that's the problem. Windsor and Rohnert Park are on there because they are the second and third largest districts respectively. So they'll have, that would assume they would have the most amount of jobs that we're competing people for. And Roseland is inside of our city limits. You don't have to leave town. You just take a different freeway exit and you're at a Roseland school. In fact, those kids feed into us. So that's why I picked those schools that are up there. Here's what it looks like on a chart. That's us. Here's Windsor, almost 17,000 a year. I'll explain where those numbers come from. This is for families. So we offer the same $2,500 whether it's a family or whether it's a married couple or whether you're by yourself. In my case, my wife works in the district too, and we were on a family plan until this year. We got $2,500 once. We split to 2 plans so we could each get the $2,500. But now we're both have the deductible liability, so it's back to don't get sick. I'm working on that. And these guys they still pay some out of pocket, but that's the family contribution. So those are the numbers that I'm using throughout this, is salary plus what they pay for a family. Here's what it looks like if you add it together. And so the little one here, on all of them, that's medical. The second one is salary, and you'll notice that of these districts, we have a better salary than those 3 districts. But then they have the health care that we don't, and when you add them up, they make a rookie. This is rookie now. This assumes bachelor's plus 30, okay? They make that much in Roseland. That's how much they make in Roanoke Park. There's Windsor. Here's the difference on a chart. If you're a rookie and you get a job offer at Windsor and Santa Rosa, and you choose Windsor, if you have a family, you will take in $1,300 more. If you're in Roanoke Park, you make $2,900 more. And if you're in Roseland, you make $12,444 more than if you choose Santa Rosa, if you have a family and you need health care. I'm embarrassed! That's what it looks like for a rookie. And again, we want to be a district that attracts and retains people for a career. We want you to begin and end your career here. This is what it looks like over a 30-year career. This is starting at bachelor's plus 30, assuming that they get 4 units a year of professional development to move up the salary schedule, step and column. And if you add those 30 years up, if you adding medical and salary, at the end of a 30-year career, Santa Rosa's got 2.3, a little bit more than us, 2.5, 2.8. That's the difference over a 30-year career. If you choose Windsor, it's $28,000. If you choose Roanoke Park, it's $131,000. If you choose Roseland, it's $449,000 more over a 30-year career. It's a rational economic choice for a rookie to choose one of those other schools, or to look wherever else they can look and do the math for themselves and see what happens.
Is that Sister Pearson?
We think that even though it costs money to solve this, and not a little bit of money to solve it, actually, it's real money. We think that the money is there if you choose to reprioritize some of the budget that you already have. And here's why. If you look at a 1% raise for our bargaining unit, that's $810,000. If you look at a $1,000 contribution, assuming we have 100 opt-ins, we have about a 60-40 split. About 60% of our members opt out because they have a spouse or Obamacare or whatever they do. About 40% opt in. So using the number 400 and then assuming that whatever you gave us would bring more in, if that was 100 to get us to 500 members, that's what that number is. 2,500 or 1,000 times 500 members. The on the record official offer that our proposal that we made in October, and a lot's happened since October, right? But at that time, and that's the last proposal we made, we asked for 3% on the schedule, $5,000 for medical, and August 10th. August 10th is gone, so I don't know how we're going to handle that. But leaving just those 2 on there, that would cost $4.4 million using those numbers. That's where I got those numbers. $4.4 million ain't nothing. At the end of 15-16, so right at the beginning of 16-17, right, June 30th, 11:59, and then the clock switches. That's the snapshot in time that ends the year, right? So that anything at that point that you hadn't spent that's unrestricted, if restricted and unrestricted is 25 something, but the unrestricted balance at the very beginning of 2016-2017, which is when our contract expired 13 months ago, was $23 million. That's equivalent to, numbers-wise, 14% reserve. It's not the same as the reserve, right? The reserve is the fund that you've decided that you're going to budget that you're not going to spend. This is what you didn't spend at the end of 2015-16. That leaves, with the 3% state minimum, that leaves 15.7 that you could have at that time chose to reprioritize to address this. I still don't think you could solve it all in 1 year. I think it would be a multi-year deal, but you could have, and still could, I would add, take some of that money and reprioritize it to address this problem. I forgot to mention that I love and respect you all. I do. And as I'm giving you this information, I absolutely have no malice in my heart. I'm not trying to finger point. I'm not trying to use any sort of name calling. I'm just showing you the perspective. And this one is one of those that, to me, is really telling. The first line here is in the 2011-12 budget, 11.5 million is what you projected would be your end balance. But the actual end balance was 13 million. Then we go down here, we took furlough days that year, if I'm not mistaken. That was a rough year. And you thought you would have 3.4 and you ended with 9. The next year, you thought you'd end with 8.3, got to 10. This one is interesting because that's the year, that's the 5% year. And at the end of that year, we got the raise in May. You thought the budget that you had was 9.5, you ended with 16. This last year, the budget that you had was 19.6 and you ended with 23. So the reason I point that out, first of all, it's good that you're conservative. I'm not trying to name call. My argument is it's been too conservative and the unrestricted balance is growing and growing. We could reprioritize some of that money to address this problem. If you look at those percentages of what's left and compare it to what the actual outgo was that year, not the budgeted outgo, but the actual outgo, again, you see this trend line, so we're up to that 15, 16, that 23 million is equivalent to 14%. State minimum reserve is 3%. We think there's a lot of wiggle room there for negotiations. We hope that that can happen at the bargaining table, not here. The reason our number is different than your number, there's two reasons, I think. One is you're looking at 3-year projections, which you have to do, right? You are required to have a 3-year budget that passes Sonoma County. That's your job. But it isn't just that reserve fund at the end of the year that is unrestricted. There's, like a dozen other unrestricted funds. And when you put all those together, anything that isn't spent at that end of that year is unrestricted fund that could be used to address our problem. This is the book fund, and this is the one that I think there are other funds that have little things like this, but this is a big number, and it's worth bringing up. In these years, 2011, we actually spent $3 million on books and supplies, 3.2, 3.4. Budget got a little better. We spent 6, we spent 7. This last year, we budgeted 15.8 million, which is more than twice as much as we've ever spent. So if we spend it all, we spend it all. I'm predicting that we didn't spend it all, and some of that will go into that unrestricted money that could be reprioritized. To be clear, we want books and supplies too. We want toilet paper. We want tap shoes for the dance teacher. We want all the Chrome carts are fantastic, by the way. We want a lot of the cool stuff that's coming. We're not arguing you should give us all of the money. We're arguing that you should, over the course of several years, work with us to fix it. It's not about a lack of resources, it's about priorities. please reprioritize addressing this crisis so we can hire and keep the very best educators for our students. I'm going to have a request for our body. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting. As a show of respect for the board and for Ms. Kitamura, please stay and listen to their remarks. I imagine you might be willing after those remarks to give us a break if people happen to want to leave. Thank you very much for that. I meant to ask you before we started, but thank you for that. Thank you very much for listening to this report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyon. CSEA report, is Tammy Alfonso here? No? Okay, well then we will move on to the superintendent report.
Good evening, everybody, members of the board. First of all, I want to start off with talking about the opening of school and thanking our staffs and our families and our children for a pretty smooth start to the school year. So I do want to acknowledge that and thank that. Now, having said that, there are always challenges, and so I appreciate the comments and the emails that I've received regarding some of the things that are still occurring in terms of issues, and so we're going to work on those, and we're going to be talking about some more of those tonight. The next thing I wanted to do was to congratulate the 2017 Excellent in Education nominees and finalists who were honored, teachers who were honored at our breakfast this last week. So I just want to say these names very quickly because I think it's deserved. For the elementary level, I want to congratulate Tina Bode. We have a lot here, so Elizabeth Graziani, Janine Likens, Pamela Silverek, Adrienne Dominguez, Jackie Swanson, and Ginger Matich. For the middle schools, I'd like to recognize Tammy Extham, Rachel Carsoni, Julie Grange, Bobby Chalk, Chris Ackerman, Mark Mayer, Lindsay Qualls, George Woodbury, Chris Woodbury. So sorry. I was looking at the name below, which is George Peterson. And Scott Payne. At the high school level, I'd like to recognize Rebecca Talk, Jordan Eberly, Gail Bowers, James Baptista, Tina Angel, Eric Olson, Jose Castro, Maureen Cecil, Christine Erkin, and Jan Sophie. So if you go to the next slide, the finalists, the people who were selected as finalists: Tina Bose, Adrienne Dominguez, Tammy Axtham, George Peterson, Rebecca Talk, and Tina Angel. Congratulations to all of you. And then lastly, I want to talk about a resolution that the board passed at the last meeting regarding exploring and looking at trustee area elections. And so there were many questions that were posed to me about the timing of the meetings, the public hearings, when they would be and where they would be. And so we finalized these dates, and so I wanted to get them out to the public as soon as possible. So they're here, and you'll see them posted everywhere. We'll be having public notices in the newspaper. We'll have letters going out to sites. And so I just wanted everybody to know when these meetings and public hearings would be happening. As you can see, there are some, most of them are going to happen at the school board meeting, but we are also going to have 3 community meetings in various sites, also to get feedback on the maps that will be developed for these by trustee areas. Okay, so that's my report. Thank you.
When did we get
Okay, thank you. So I want to start by just acknowledging also the teachers who were nominated and won awards at the chamber. I love going to that breakfast every year. It's a great way to kick off the year, and I love hearing about the little cool things that all the teachers do in their classrooms, and how they all work so hard to make their classrooms unique for their students, and I really appreciate that. I had a great visit at Santa Rosa Middle School with the restorative specialist there, Bree Clark. I got to sit in on some pre-circle meetings, and then actually a circle. It was sort of a flashback to junior high, and it was a great experience. And I saw how kind of the things that happen between middle school girls that can sometimes turn into big fights or years-long grudges and things like that can be worked out in a really positive way. And it was, I really appreciate Bree for letting me in there, and also the young ladies who talked about their feelings and stuff in front of a complete stranger. So that was great. I'm also happy to report that actually 0 Santa Rosa students' eyes were burned on Monday, and I think that we did a great job with that.
Sure, we did a great job. You mean the clouds did a great job.
I heard that one of our assistant superintendents lit a lot of candles and prayed for fog, so
Oh, that's
that was effective.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, so
I like the cheese joke.
you know, I think it's great that you're all here, and I think it's great that you have a strong bargaining unit to represent you and to act as your advocate. And I want you to all know, and I know we say it, and sometimes maybe it's believable, sometimes it's not, that you're not just members of your union, but you really are members of our staff. This is a mission-driven organization, this district, and you are an important part, if not the most important part of this mission-driven organization where we exist to serve students. So you're our staff members. And as part of our staff and part of our team and our organization, we think it's really, really important that you all have accurate information about anything that affects your job. And so, you know, kind of going forward, anytime that there's information that's put out in a public way that we think is inaccurate, we're going to make sure that we correct that and in an expeditious manner, and that probably will be in G information items on the agenda so the public has it. And it will also be in emails, district-wide emails, to make sure that everyone has the information that they need. There is one issue right now that we're concerned has been misrepresented and that we think that you probably have a great interest in. At this time, it is confidential, kind of, and that is in our last offer that was made in mediation. Now, in mediation, we sign agreements, and this is normal, so that the things said in mediation are confidential, but what they're confidential from is sort of further court proceedings or further administrative proceedings or the public. They're not confidential for the people that they matter to or the people that the bargaining teams represent. So, for example, we have a bargaining team, as you know, and they come back and they tell us what happened, and we're the us. They are our agent. We are the principals, and so they can tell us what happened, or else we would have no way to engage in that. Likewise, your bargaining unit has a bargaining team, and then they have to go back to you to tell you what happened, so that you can give them permission to make deals. So we would like for everyone, the public, to know what our last offer was in mediation. And we as a board have decided that we will waive our confidentiality to make that offer public, should you and God and everybody. And so we would also publicly like to ask SRTA's leadership to likewise waive confidentiality to reveal to its members what our last offer was in mediation. And my understanding is that the executive board has discussed that and that Will has an answer for us one way or another.
Do you want me to come and answer that? Are you inviting me to answer that?
I am inviting you to answer that, yes, sir. Thank you.
After
We'll turn on the, it's on.
After speaking with SRTA legal counsel, I've been advised that we signed a confidentiality agreement with PERB, not with you. Your members signed confidentiality agreements with PERB, not with us. It's a PERB thing. We politely say no thank you to that offer.
Okay, well, we have different legal opinions. If you change your mind, we'll be here, and you can let us know. That is... So we're going to go on to, we have no board committee reports tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I promised you guys a break. But actually, let's do board reports first. All right, we'll take a break right now. 5 minutes, then we'll resume the meeting. Thanks for coming. All right, let's get going. Were you students here through all that time, or did you just get here? You were here? Raise your hand if you were here for this whole time. All right. That's doing democracy, my friends. All right, board reports. Let's start with Director Christoph. Do you have a board report tonight? No? Our first night with Luke, the new student board member. Do you have a board report tonight? All right.
Hi. So first I just want to thank all the teachers who helped to get me here, and also, of course, my parents and the board who selected me to come participate in this. I'm really excited to start the year here and hopefully have a lot of good experiences. So just a few things, I guess, from the first couple of days of school. At Korea, where I go, we got our theater refurbished recently, which a lot of the students really enjoy. We got kind of a new coat of paint, and the drama room was redone, and much appreciated from the entire student body. One thing that I wanted to mention is that a lot of my friends, well, some of my friends and some other people I talked to had to actually drop some of their elective classes because of a low amount of AP and honors classes that were actually offered at the school, scheduling conflicts where there's only, a couple sections of each thing, and they just conflict and they weren't able to do their elective. They had to prioritize their academics, so that's one thing I just wanted to bring up. Also, the new field refurbishment, that's obviously a lot of people are excited for that at Creo. A lot of the students have been talking about it, and those are kind of the main points I just wanted to bring up from the first few days, what's going on my campus right now, and I'm excited to, in the future, visit other sites, other campuses, and see what the students are feeling on those different places, issues they think are relevant and they care about. So yeah, really excited to be here, and thankful for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you for the report. We look forward to hearing more. Director Christoph, no. Director Fong.
I got to pay a visit to Cesar Chavez Language Academy, and I just want to give a shout out to everybody who started school last week, and they did a great job. It's really amazing that we are starting with immersion in K, and even if I wanted to volunteer there, I didn't know enough Spanish to even work in K, so there you go. Kids are just immersed just 100% in that. They did a good job because they had to move into some classrooms that were formerly unused. The school is growing, and I think they're doing a good job.
Director Crowell.
I just want to note at the start of school, it seemed to go pretty well, although we have been getting a number of emails, which I really appreciate that people are taking the time to send us information, particularly about an item that we have a little bit later today. Please keep that information coming. We can't know unless people let us know, so that's a big deal. Luke, I'm glad that you had some refurbishment there. There is a problem at Maria Carrillo High School that if somebody can figure out, though, it would be nice, and that is that loud bang that every once in a while, because of the ceiling in there, that has never been able to get resolved. And I don't know that it ever will, but it's a fabulous building, but for the fact that in the middle of a performance it can go pop for no particular reason. The refurbishment is great, and I really wish we could solve that problem. Just have obviously never been able to get the expertise to be able to do it.
Director Pugh.
I don't have a board report, but I would like to say that I attended the National School Board Association leadership meeting in Chicago. Had a great time and learned a lot, and one of the best parts is you get to talk to board members all across the United States. And one of the hottest things that is going on right now is coding. Coding classes for women, for men. It's just the big talk. Even in talk to representatives in Washington State and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that report. That's going to be kind of exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Anderson.
Just a little footnote to Luke's presentation in that the refurbishment was paid for and done by the Performing and Fine Arts Committee, and with a lot of help from our arts department teachers, just so that we're clear about where that came from.
Great, thank you. Director Sheffield.
And yes, I'm fresh back from vacation and just want to welcome back the teachers and the students and wish them the very best this year. Last Monday, I received a very delightful voice message from our superintendent welcoming students back. And my oldest has started kindergarten, so he's a proctor in Miss Sullivan's class, and I know that she will have her hands full with my 5-year-old. But go Tigers. But one issue that I am compelled to bring up, and this has to do with last week, the appearance of a hate symbol and some language on one of our schools. And very unfortunate, but I commend the school staff for acting very swiftly to remove this. Unfortunate that it starts just at the beginning of the school year. And can't help but think that this is tied to what is going on at the national level and the actions and inactions of our president. And sadly, we will see more of this as a result because people are empowered, emboldened to act. And even though it's a very, very small percentage of society, their hate can go a long way. And when we start to see it in our community, it strikes us all. And knowing that we have a very welcoming and very loving community here, I know that we're going to continue to teach our kids that this isn't right, teach them the message of love. And so I feel optimistic that because we live in this community and because we have such great schools that we won't tolerate this and we'll stamp it out, and that's what needs to be done.
Thank you, Ed. Director Christoph.
Yes, this is from CSBA in particular. This would be also from the Santa Rosa School Board, but Lori and I had a chance to meet with State Senator Mike McGuire last week. And the purpose of the meeting was, up front and clear that we as a school district, but we as not only as a school district, but as a state, are desperately in need of more money to be able to do the kind of things that we all know we're supposed to be doing. We need interventions, we need health care, we need cost of living adjustments, we need new buildings, new facilities. California is woefully underfunded, and you can measure this a whole bunch of different ways. We have a true friend in Mike McGuire. I think he is a friend of education for many reasons. He is also the chair of the Government and Finance, State Senate Government and Finance Committee, so he's well positioned to help us out. In our almost hour-long discussion, we talked about some maybe creative ways to, at this time, come up with funding. I don't want to wait for the governor to retire, but that will be a helpful first step. But even with his presence, I think there's some money coming through the state now that we'll be looking at to maybe immediately go to public education, K-12. We're going to continue this discussion in early October, and I hope it's going to be an ongoing discussion with Mike. And my intention is to make sure that our other local legislators, both State Assembly and State Senate, are well aware of our problems. So if you'll help me out, give them a ring, give them, write them an email. We need to keep talking to them. Thank you.
Okay, consent items.
Move approval of items E2 through 11.
Second.
Moved by Director Carl, second by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries and brings us to our F items. F1, action item approval of resolution recognizing September 15th to October 15th, 2017 as Hispanic Heritage Month. Okay. Then
So moved.
Second.
moved by Director Fong, second by Director Carl. Roll call vote, please.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
And we ought to note that if you go to the agenda, there is a hyperlink on the item that allows you to go to www.hispanicheritagemonth.org, and you can learn more about what's happening throughout the state.
Thank you, Director Carl. Okay, F2 is discussion item, Measure INL Bond Program Update.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, Board of Directors. Tonight, along with Mr. Mike Braff and Mr. Adrian Bika, Director of Facilities and Director of Technology, respectively, we're bringing a major INL bond update to the board. This will be primarily focused on the facilities work that was accomplished this summer and where we're moving forward from here, as well as where we're currently at with our technology infrastructure project and some of the other technology projects that we've taken on with the assistance of the bond program. Overall, before I hand it over to these two gentlemen, the bond program is starting to pick up a lot of speed and move more quickly, much to the credit of Mr. Bika with technology and Mr. Braff with facilities. It's great to have both of these gentlemen on board, especially on the facility side, helping to push that forward, where we're seeing real results quicker than we had in the previous 10 to 12 months that we were working on the bond projects. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Braff to start with the facilities portion.
Good evening, Board. It's my pleasure to report that this summer's program was completed on time and within budget. However, we're still completing the controls and currently have crews working on them as we're speaking. The projects that were touched this summer were Hidden Valley, Herbert Slater, Pioneer High School, Albert Biella, Monroe Modulars, and Charter of the Arts had its grand opening and was a success. We're currently in the process of installing security enclosures around the HVAC units and security fencing to follow shortly at Charter of the Arts. Moving forward, Maria Carrillo Field, the contractor mobilized this afternoon, and construction will start later this week, and we'll keep you updated on the progress. Pioneer Lighting Project is now in the bidding process, and bid opening is scheduled for September 12th, with board approval scheduled for September 13th. Future 2017-18 projects on the radar is we're going to continue with the Warm, Safe, and Dry program with focus on roofing and HVAC needs. Some sites have been determined, and we're finalizing the list. The process being used for site selection is based on the M&O work order system and previous roofing assessments. Second, the new Montgomery High School classroom building. We're in the process of selecting a design team, and we'll start design docs and obtain input from the site and community in the near future. We're also developing a list of sites where marquees are needed. Moving on, the department is also evaluating the implementation plan to see what might be added to the 2018 program. Along with that, we're working on selecting sites for the security camera projects, which cabling has already been completed at most of the sites by the technology department. So that is a brief rundown of what has occurred and what is on the radar in the near future.
And I'd also like to say that in subsequent board meetings, either as information items or as agenda items, we'll be bringing back financial information as we close out the summer projects, so we can see the entire bond program and where it's standing at this point. That'll happen in September.
Director Carl.
How many bid packets were pulled for the Pioneer Light project?
how many bid packets? It hasn't bid yet, sir.
Oh, I thought you said it was getting ready to...
No, it's on.
That it's out and it was getting ready for bid opening.
Bid opening is scheduled.
He's referring to how many contractors pick up the bid packets in order to bid. It was posted on our website, so we wouldn't know everyone that received it, and I don't know if anyone came in to receive the package.
Okay.
No, they either view it from our website or from trades places to pick up the packets.
We don't have cookies that can tell us who viewed our website? Because I can tell you that everywhere I go, I get ads from everything, so it seems to me the school district, we might be able to do the same thing.
Well, let me try to readdress your question. Based on some questions that we've already received in the past couple days, I've already received questions from at least 5 different contractors.
Perfect. That's a great answer. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'd also like to say, Director Call, you're giving our current website a lot of credit.
Well, the personnel we have, there's a reason to do that.
So as I was saying, that information will come back in subsequent meetings in September. And now I'd like to turn over to Mr. Bika for update on the status of the technology infrastructure upgrade project and the other projects associated with that.
Members of the board, Superintendent Kitamura. 2 years ago when I arrived at Santa Rosa City Schools, I was in a state of disbelief with the state of the technology throughout the district. Antiquated hardware, crumbling infrastructure, a melange of systems that needed a constant patching and repair. We had come a long way in the last couple of years. We created a modern, viable digital environment to support instruction and business objectives. None of this would have been possible without the bond measure and INL. The teachers are central to the education process, so providing them with the appropriate tools to conduct instruction was our first priority. Every certificated employee received a new business-grade laptop at the beginning of the 2015-2016 school year. Additionally, bond measures INL funded equitable distribution of 2,000 student Chromebooks throughout the district, offering some enthusiastic teachers the opportunity to head start using technology as an integral tool in the curriculum. A wireless laptop and access to a Chromebook cart was the starter kit, if you will. It spread like fire. We grew since then from 2,000 Chromebooks to almost 8,000 plus, and over 700 iPads for a distribution of 2-to-1 student device throughout the district. Bond measure INL also funded hardware upgrades for the classified personnel. Of course, to support this influx of hardware, the infrastructure needed an upgrade for both the wired and wireless and wired network. We had to recognize that recabling the entire district will take a while, but we had a stringent need for wireless access right away. Therefore, we proceeded with a phase 1 of the wireless network deployment to meet immediate needs just in time. Along with phase 1 of the wireless installation, we proceeded with the safeguarding of our digital assets, old and new, upgrading our backup and data recovery systems, and our data storage for day-to-day operations and new network infrastructure. At this point in time, cabling is complete at Maria Carrillo High School, all the elementary schools and middle schools. LZ Allen is at 75% mark of completion, and we just started cabling at Montgomery last night. Pioneer, Santa Rosa, Ridgeway, and the district office cabling projects will start this fall and be completed by the end of the winter. New networking equipment and the full number of wireless access points have been deployed at Maria Carrillo High School, all middle schools, all elementary schools, with the exception of Steel Lane, which is being where we have the crew installing them as we speak. The site's currently being cabled, and the one scheduled for cabling will receive the new equipment as soon as the cabling is done. As far as future projects, I have 3 items here: internet connectivity upgrade, telephony service, and integrated Bell speaker system deployment. Due to the dramatic increase of the numbers of devices connecting to our wireless network, we reached the capacity of our current internet connection of 1 gigabytes per second through SCO in May of 2017. It's a nice problem to have, but it's a problem. In anticipation of this expected outcome, we had brought forward to the board and received the board's approval on May 2016 the proposal to leverage E-rate funding to extend bond funding to upgrade SRCS internet connectivity to 10 times the current capacity, split over 2 load-balanced 5 gigabytes per second internet connections, one through a network connection at LZ Allen, and upgraded connection through SCO. Installation of 2 dark fiber connections, District Office to LZ Allen and District Office to SCO, was required, and the installation was completed at the end of this summer, partially E-rate funded as well. At the last board meeting, the board also approved the lease of 2 content filter solutions dimensioned to contend with the increased bandwidth and double location. We're still waiting for a piece of equipment at SCO, but the technical solution and the equipment are ready. Anticipated deployment is after the end of September. The telephone service, the core of a new modern voice over IP phone system designed to replace the 3 antiquated phone systems deployed at different schools, has been configured and tested at the end of the last school year. Luther Burbank, the elementary, was our pilot site for deployment and transition process. We had chosen this site because of its size and the willingness of its staff members to participate. And I want to take this opportunity to thank teachers, classified staff, and the administration at Luther Burbank Elementary for their support in this endeavor. Based on this experience, we successfully deployed our first full-blown phone system at the Charter School for the Arts. We plan deployment in a quick succession to all cable sites so far, starting with mid-September, starting with the smaller schools, elementary and middle, and then high schools. Expected completion for this project is end of winter of the 2017-2018 school year. And the third project we're working on is the integrated bell clock speaker system. In June, we brought forward to the board, and the board approved the integrated bell clock speakers project. The core system has already been installed, and one school implementation is active at Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts. We are very pleased with the expected degree of flexibility it offers. We have a scheduled kickoff meeting Friday to discuss the installation of this system throughout the rest of the school district. We expect completion for this project at the end of winter of the 2017-2018 school year as well. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my team and the contractors I worked with over the summer. We completed a lot of work. And I am so pleased to see the level of collaboration we established among our teams and within the teams as well. And all I can say is thank you.
So with that, through both Mike and Adrian, a lot of work has taken place. We're very excited as a team with what has transpired and where we're continuing to move forward, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I have a blue card, Nancy Lands.
Thank you. Most of you recognize me. I tend to come occasionally. As you may or may not know, I have 2 children in the district. I'm a taxpayer at both the elementary district and the high school district, so I'm well vested in these bonds and the proceeds that are spent. I happen to have a background in municipal finance, having worked on a trading desk specifically for municipal bonds for a good chunk of my career. But I'd like to thank you first for, 1, refunding your general obligation bonds and saving us a couple $1 million in interest, and 2, in tiering your expected use and your maturity dates to the expected life of the projects that you're funding. It's very important not to be paying 10 years on a Chromebook that's only going to last 3. And next, at Hidden Valley. It's a very large elementary school, and we're thrilled to finally have roofs that don't leak. We're hoping they don't leak this year. We're really, really hoping they don't leak. We're looking forward to that, in fact. And a couple other things. With this new Shanate development coming on, there's going to be big changes at our school. I don't know where on earth they think they're going to put kids from 800 houses, certainly not at that campus. But on the agenda tonight is the possibility of school marquees. Hidden Valley's face, really, most people see it from the Shanate roadside. And what you see from the Sinead roadside is the back of a bunch of buildings. Most people don't realize there's a school there, or they think it's just the deaf and hard of hearing program. They don't realize what's there. And we're desperately trying to build community and parental involvement in our school, and having a live, nice marquee on that side of the school would be fabulous. And the Parents Association is trying. We've got a small committee started. We're trying to work on redoing that side of the school. Our concerns is the sight lines there. There's huge trees that interfere with the PG&E lines. Years ago, I don't know, it's a mess out there. But it would be nice to have that side of the school be an asset to our community instead of the nightmare that it is now. It's just a mess out there, and the trees are interfering, and it's just a mess. So it would be great to have a marquee on that side of the school, and to have it be visible as you drive by, because that's a high-traffic street, and that's where people are going to see our school. And I'm going to put a plug in. It'd be great to get the bathrooms fixed at Hidden Valley, too. The floors are rotted through. It smells like urine. It's the only adult bathroom on the site that parents are allowed to use, and the daycare bathroom is disgusting. When my kid was in kindergarten there, I do property management. I had a contractor who was willing to come in and fix it, and the district said no. And my kid's in 6th grade now, and the same floor is still there. You can still see the subfloor. It's disgusting, and it should be fixed for the safety and health of the children. And we'd love some paint at that school, too. Those portables, I don't think they've ever been painted. But the next question is another school my child goes to. I have a 6th grader now at Schrack's, and they have no playground. The Parents Association, for years, and they've given up finally, would love to get a playground there. And the gentleman spoke about how the athletic fields get leased out. And so those athletic fields are reserved for the girls' softball. That's a fast one, sorry. Why are they reserved for softball instead of our students? I played on those fields. It's time to rearrange something out there so that they can be used for both. The students at Schrack's are elementary students. They deserve to have a playground to burn some energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, coming back to the board. Questions? Director Fong.
I think the work that your team, Rick, has done on these huge projects has been amazing. It's miraculous to see the technology at the sites on top of old structures. That's a headache. And the roofs are great. We know that we need those. I know that you bring to the board the next projects, and we've already approved the next project. So would you remind us again, because we spent so much time on the facility master plan, how the next choices come before us and the public and how those decisions are made? Just remind me.
Specifically right now, we're focusing on warm, safe, and dry schools. A number of factors go into that. Roofing and HVAC are our biggest issues that we find at all of our schools in the district in some form or another. So we've concentrated on that at the start. As Mike mentioned earlier, we have tentatively the next set of schools based upon the criteria of work orders and initial roofing assessments from an outside entity. We're finalizing that list. We'll bring that back as well to share. We're also looking at other projects of great need in the district that fall under that umbrella as well, and determining that based on need of the school sites and trying to get as much work done as quickly as we can at as many sites as possible.
So when you are looking at the sites, facility master plans, where teachers and parents, administrators have put in a lot on those individual school reports, that is your starting point?
That, as well as our own assessments of the needs. Not too many parents, certainly many teachers and administrators talked about leaky roofs or non-functioning air conditioning. We heard that loud and clear, not only through the projects we completed this summer, but with the assistance of M&O, have done other repairs to those mechanical units as well at various sites in preparation for the start of school and also for this winter. So we'll continue on prioritizing that work to address that at the schools.
Director Anderson?
So it was such fun watching the work at Hidden Valley this summer. It gave the neighbors a lot to talk about, the big cranes and everything. It added a lot of lively conversation to our walks around the neighborhood. And I am interested, with all due respect to Nancy Lands, and I agree that the school needs help, but I just don't understand how marquees fall under safe, warm, and dry. So if you could help me understand that, please.
Excuse me. So as the development of the facilities master plan occurred, marquees were one thing that came up a lot from feedback and input from school sites. And also, for one, a community engagement model, one, to get pertinent information out for students and staff as they arrive or depart school sites, as well as an equity issue across the district with some sites having marquees and some sites not having marquees. We felt that through that process and the feedback that we received from the sites, that it would be not only a great thing for each individual school to have a standardized marquee for those school sites that didn't have it, but it would also be a way to show that work is taking place and moving forward for our community members who supported these bond measures.
Thank you. Director Pugh.
When we look at the master plan for the facilities, how much more money would we need to complete the entire plan?
Great question. We need about $1 billion to complete the entire facilities master plan as it sits today, but with rising construction costs, as we've seen in the last 8 to 16 months, it would probably be closer to $1.4 or $1.5 billion at this point.
So the sooner we build, we have a cost savings, correct?
Yes, in essence.
Yeah. So maybe we need to have a discussion about future bonds in our community here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Carl.
Hey, Rick, have we looked into on marquees aggressively seeking community advertising? We have one at Santa Rosa Middle School that we signed, I believe, a 10-year deal with an, I'm sorry?
It's expired.
It's finished now, with an orthodontic. And I don't recall the percentage of the cost associated with that, but I think it was pretty close to paying for it. So I'm wondering whether, in terms of a source of funds, we might consider that. You know, it's your advertising, and maybe people don't like that particularly, but if that's the way to get it there, and that's how we can generate some additional funds, because we're short on funds, it seems to me we ought to look into that possibility.
We certainly will. We'll take that back.
Director Pugh.
With regard to the Santa Rosa Middle School marquee they have on that corner of North and College, I think.
Yeah, College.
Right. That agreement with the dentist or the orthodontist is up. I mean, but the name still remains on the facility. And so we may want to reach out to that firm and see if they would like to continue their partnership and perhaps light up the marquee for night or something like that. But I think it was a 6-year contract, and we did that about 10 years ago. Right.
We'll look into that.
Thank you.
Director Sheffield.
This is just following up on some of the comments Director Fong had made around priorities. I'm wondering, with these priorities, how they are communicated to the public.
Well, the priorities were set forth in the facilities master plan and through the meetings we had with the board, bringing projects forward. Granted, it was previous to the new members on the board. It was the spring before the election, your election, where we went out through the facilities master plan process. I don't remember the exact number of meetings, but it had to have been at least 4 to 6 per site. getting input, taking input back, bringing the facilities master plan for that portion of the school, working with the Board of Education, identifying, the big need, which one of our major needs with the bond, we need to accomplish with the bond is the roofing and HVAC at our school site. So that was brought forward as one of the priorities.
Right, and the process is not what my question is. My question is more of, this is starting of a school year, and we hear from the parents, we hear from the community that, oh, this school needs such and such, and they don't, seems to me like the communication isn't there. They don't understand that this is a priority. And although the master plan shifts as issues come up, just how is that, where does a community member, where does a parent go to say, oh, wait a minute, the visible subfloor at the elementary school might not be on top priority because we have leaky roofs and we have an air quality issue, and that's the information that I'm wondering.
Well, certainly if we have subfloor issues, that should be addressed through our M&O department and taken care of through a normal district channel as a need arises at a school site. So I heard that, so I'll make sure that gets passed on to that appropriate department. Otherwise, information can be found on the website and through our communications with the board of how we're prioritizing and moving forward. We can certainly send more information out if we need to.
So information is easily available via the website?
Correct.
And something that we can tell the community members who we're in contact with, just direct them to the website and say, also, by the way, go to the website and look.
Absolutely, and there's contact information to contact us directly as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much for your report. Lots of work getting done. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
F3, a transportation update.
President Close, board members, and Superintendent Kitamura. Assistant Superintendent Bell and I are going to share a presentation on latest summary of where we are with our transportation and operations. In this report, just to tell you, this is in essence a two-part report. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of where we are and how we got to where we are, addressing some of the concerns that you all are very familiar with as we are. And then following this, at the next board meeting, we'll have a representative from West County Transportation, Chad Barksdale, and he will hopefully address some of those concerns and talk more specifically about the details of the start of this year, and then what his plans are to improve services as we go forward. A brief background, as you all know, this has been an issue before the board for a number of years now, starting way back to 2014. We moved in 2015 to end our contract with First Student and moved to the West County Transportation Agency, the JPA. That became effective in July of 2016. We have served 1 year under them, and we are beginning a second. And you board members, you also know that part of the JPA, we are one of 17 school districts, and the voting on that is recognized as we are one vote of those 17 as well. Once we joined the JPA, we did a presentation, Steve Eichmann and myself did a presentation last December, giving you a summary of some of the concerns we had at that point. In the spring of last year, a couple of highlights is the JPA issued a series of bonds, a bond debt to incur facilities bond to increase their capacity to include Santa Rosa schools. That went through in their, the board in January. It was sent to approval in certificates out to bid in April, and that was approved and funded, and we are beginning this now second year under both that under the new funding analysis, and we'll show those in the cost analysis as we begin our second year. Assistant Superintendent Bell.
Good evening. Before you now, you see a slide of comparison between first students, which was in 2015, and West Transportation of 2016. Basically, this is the issues that we had by the months comparably from August for first students in 2015 and West County in 2016. So as you can see, really most of the issues do occur in September at the start of school for both entities. Now we take the same data and now we break it down by issues. And the most issue is the timing for both, and that West County is still having issues as going during that same period as far as buses being on time, students pickups, drop-offs, and the miscellaneous. Well, it's pretty much some of the conditions of the buses, you know, the parents' complaints and other items as they went forward. So this is a comparison of the years that we're going to, the contract that runs to 1920. In the first year, there was the first year we paid a flat fee of $6.5 million. Next year, we're going to wind up with a phased-in percentage. That total will cost us about $6 million, and then as you can see, 18-19 we go to 6.3, and in 19-20 we go to 6.9.
Continuing transportation concerns. The school year is obviously new, but we are still expressing some late bus and late drop-off and issues as they route students. We also are concerned that we had conversations last year about an automated system that West County was looking at, a GPS system that allowed families and school sites to know where the buses were at the time. And we were expecting implementation. That has not occurred. I think Mr. Barksdale will have some information on that as he comes forward. One of the continued issues is the timely notification of transportation to parents and school sites when buses are late, when kids are late coming home. Those are continued issues that we are still experiencing this year. Another thing that has come up that we developed at the end of the last year is that there's been a conflict with middle school athletics. What we found last year is there were instances where the field trips were not being able to be assigned because of a lack of drivers. The early start time for middle school games at 4 o'clock really coincided exactly when the release of students were and student transportation. And so there are instances last year where, although buses were requested, they were not able to have a West County bus. And so in some cases, we had to use outside charter buses to ensure that the students could get to the field trips. So that's coming up again as another issue. We did some research and we're doing more surveys, and we found out that in that middle school league, there are only 3 of the 13 school districts that in fact provide busing for middle school athletics. We do. It's one of the things that we're trying to work through tomorrow. Mr. Bell and I have a meeting with the middle school athletic directors to continue looking at what we're going to do for this year, how we're going to cover. But it is certainly one of the things that was not built into the contract. Middle school busing is considered like field trip busing, and these kind of activities are not part of the contract, and they come as an additional factor. So we're trying to get West County to work with us and help us identify how we can get these students to their activities. And we mentioned that also that West County will be here to answer some questions, and at this point, we will certainly love to hear some questions, and we can help prepare West County for next meeting's presentation.
Director Carl.
Steve and Andre, I'd a couple of things. I would like to understand what their process is for advertising for bus drivers. I think you've probably heard this from me, or at least through the superintendent, 6 or 8 days before school. driving in the car, listening to a local radio station, and on came an advertisement for bus drivers for West County Transportation. I'm glad that they're trying to get them. Getting them 7 days before school tells me there's not a chance in the world they're going to get a bus driver that applies that'll be ready for that day. I'd like to understand when they do advertise, when they knew they were going to be short. This has been an ongoing issue, and I want them to tell us what they've been doing with respect to that.
Pardon me. Attending a board meeting today, like you said, their advertising strategies are the radio station, like you have. They have also attended regional job fairs to recruit drivers, and they're advertising. I mean, they have the positions on EdJoin and the other associated websites for drivers, but that's pretty much their strategy. I can tell you that they're still short drivers, and so that is one of the issues that we still face because of the lack of, a large pool of drivers to support, and especially in the cases of absenteeism, on the case and on that will create more of a problem than anything else. So they're still heavily trying to recruit drivers, but currently they do not have enough drivers to support all of the routes that they have.
The sensitivity comes, and this was obviously before your time, Andre, the sensitivity comes when they came in front of us in the beginning and said, oh, we won't have any problem, and we'll have plenty of drivers, and we won't have any issue. So as a member of the board, now I want to know what their strategy is. I appreciate hearing what their strategy is. I would like to hear from him what about that strategy isn't working and what they're doing to change that strategy. And I'd love to understand when they first started advertising. I would suggest that if you're having to advertise 7 to 10 days before school, then your strategy in May and June didn't work. And understanding when you made adjustments in the business world, when something doesn't work, then you make an adjustment to that strategy. That in no way, shape, or form is any suggestion that anybody in this district or either of you have anything to do relative to that. This is something that was sold to us in part from West County Transportation, and so I want to hear from the people that sold it to us what they're doing.
And that's why we have them coming on the next board meeting.
Precisely, but Steve wanted to know.
Yeah, that's.
I think it's helpful to give that in front of them as opposed. I'm an attorney by trade. I've taken 500 depositions plus in my life, oftentimes asking questions of people that hopefully they didn't anticipate because I'd find out what the real answer was. In a public setting, I don't think that helps. And I think that getting that to them so that we actually get answers and can have a good discussion about it as opposed to a gotcha for somebody. That doesn't get us where we need to go. What our focus is that we need transportation that gets our students to school on time, safely, and that parents can rely on it so that they're not in a position to wonder as their child is sitting on the corner and they're having to go to work, whether that child's going to be picked up at the time that they're supposed to be. You guys know this in spades. You've seen the emails that we received. We have a responsibility as a district to protect those students. WCA has a responsibility, or WCT, thank you, has a responsibility to live up to their contract and to live up to what they sold to us. And so that's what I want to hear.
Thank you.
Director Kristoff, and then Director Pugh.
Steve and Andre, thank you. I know we're going to hear from West County pretty soon, but when I first came to the board, one of the things, I had several things I inquired about, and one of the first things I was interested in pursuing was owning our own buses. And I was told at the time it was not practical to do that. When the concept of a JPA, which I was not familiar with, came up, I thought it was a great idea. We have 40 school districts in Sonoma County. I mean, we could do a lot better as far as organizing services, so I had a lot of hope that this would be the first of many JPAs that would work out. Obviously, I'm very disappointed in the concept. I think it went from a possibility of, more cooperation to a point where it's just hard to resolve problems. We have problems with first student. This is no better, and I'm not sure if, as far as resolution goes, if this is going to be easy to take care of these or not. But I am very disappointed, and I'm hoping, we can hear the defense from the folks when they come at the next meeting. But I also would like to go back to the concept of, if we started buying our own fleet, would that take care of our problems? Maybe if we started with a few buses, we could have, the transportation issues solved, like with the middle school or for, games and so on. Ultimately, the idea would be to have our own fleet. I live out in Bennett Valley, and I drive down Eulupus sometimes and see all those buses in Rincon Valley. They have their own little system there, and they're quite a bit smaller, but brand new buses that look very pretty, and I guess they take care of their own issues. Anyway, I'm just thinking, maybe we need some contingency plans to deal with this. Thank you.
Director Pugh.
Thank you. I agree with both speakers before me, and I am especially resonant to the idea that the transportation that's provided needs to be safe. And I will say that in my tenure on the school board, ever since we have gone to West County Transit, I seem to be hearing more and more people complain. People who are extremely frustrated, have no confidence that their child will be picked up or delivered. And there's been several examples of that taking place, which means that the idea of picking up and delivering safely is just something that seems to be, I seem to hear more about than I ever have before. And so I would like to know who's picking up the phone at West County Transit, because we've heard people talk about the fact they try to reach, they can't get anybody to answer the phone. Seems to be a major problem there. And I also would like to think, as we're working through our transportation concerns with them at next meeting, I want to know what our options are. It cannot come to a surprise to that organization that there's a problem brewing here with our district. And I have great concerns about that. So I guess I'm politely asking, what is our option should we decide that we're not, the answers to the questions aren't satisfactory to the comfort of this board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Fong.
Ditto to what my colleagues have said. Thank you for these charts. If you go back to the chart that shows the comparison between first student in West County transportation issues by month, would you be able to, by September 13th, have it for the entire school year last year and actually again for the beginning of school? Just bring that out a little further than December.
I think we may, if we're doing an apples and apples, meaning first student to West County, we certainly have what our analysis of West County's data through the end of the year. I think what began happening as we were looking at the data, after the contract ended with first student, we didn't have the same kind of following of data at the end of that spring. So we could certainly get West County's through the entire year very accurately, but that spring of first students last, a couple months, it starts, the data I think just falls off. I think we stopped, we knew where we're going. We stopped taking accurate data. So it'd be difficult to compare those two, but we could still do last year's West County till the end of the year.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a drop off in those instances because, of course, we've all seen these emails and heard from these parents, and they're egregious. Some of the examples we're getting from the email, it's a safety concern. And also, just to reiterate what Director Pugh said about options, you named one also, Director Christoph, in terms of our own buses, but that's a whole other cost, of course. But so we don't feel like a victim. I'm starting to feel like a victim here. Like, how do we change this and how do we improve this when it's really beyond our control, yet our kids are in our hands? So I know you guys are working hard on this with them, but yeah. we'll be asking them next meeting.
Thank you.
Director Sheffield?
Just want to thank you for putting this together. I know since before my time on the board, there have been questions about the cost benefit and delivery of service analysis, and now we have something to go by and start to really examine the merits of the JPA. Complaints from parents and schools, they've been steady since I've been on the board. Comments I've heard, buses are always late, at least 10 minutes. Teachers have to take attendance late because they're waiting for students to arrive. Inability to get transportation for team sporting events and field trips. Students not being picked up, students not being dropped off. Parents and students not knowing the bus routes and the schedules, and drivers not knowing when the start of the school year is. And these are just what I've heard in the past week. So I'm looking forward to September 13th and being able to get some answers to these questions. But just as it's been stated before, wondering what our options are if we choose to start looking at something different. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report. I think we're all looking forward to hearing from West County. I'm wondering if, since we don't have good data for our first student for the end of 2016, if we couldn't use the end of 2015 instead in place of that?
I don't believe we were tracking. The contract wasn't an issue. It's something we did during that last year for contract purposes.
Okay. I'm surprised. I'm surprised by this data because I think that we get many more complaints, and then the complaints that we receive now are far more egregious than we did with first student. And I actually wonder if the data with first student was skewed because there was really this call for tracking, and it was very public and asking people to complain, because I think the things that I'm hearing, both from parents and emails, but also just from teachers consistently, that they are very late, both getting in and also teachers after school having to wait with kids for a long time for buses to come pick them up. So from what I hear, it's a pretty significant problem. When they were here last time, we talked to them about looking into some kind of text notification service, which really should be possible. And so I'd like to know if they've done that.
That's part of the GPS mentioned, Chad. In my last conversation, we met twice over the summer. They have something that they said they were piloting. We had hoped that would be implemented by this time. So I'll have to let him explain where they are and why it didn't roll out right at the beginning of the year.
Okay, well, he should definitely be prepared to do that. The comments I hear about not answering the phone kill me. Like right now, they're in 2017, you're only not answering the phone if you're choosing not to answer the phone. I mean, there shouldn't be just some phone sitting in a room. They can all forward, and that's an issue that I think they should address. And then the other thing is, I'd really like to know if they are not providing our transportation for as many sporting events and field trips, how much is that costing us? Because that has to play into this contract figure, or over and above. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Superintendent.
In terms of the data as well, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, that the data that we're showing here is only what we receive. It's not tracking what is actually going into West County as well. Is that correct?
True.
That's true. We, as you stated, there's a lot of complaints that were not tracked or were not necessarily brought to the attention of the district. So we only had the data, and that's why we said that data from our records. Clearly, I'm sure there's a lot of more instances than that's actually represented up there on the chart itself.
The other thing I would ask is, if I wasn't CC'd on the emails that you received, if you could please forward those to Lori, because I'm going to start, I want to track those now too, because I know I've received them, but not necessarily the board. The board's probably received them, not necessarily me, but if you could just forward them to Lori Kolachek, that would be very helpful as we continue to collect data.
Director Fong.
One last question. I'm wondering, and I don't know how you would find this out, are the other members of the JP, 17 of us, right? There's 16 other school districts. Are they satisfied? You don't have to answer this, but I'm just wondering if we are getting worse service, the same service? Curious. You don't need to answer, you may not know.
Yeah, well, okay, so, yeah, no. Most of them are satisfied. You clearly have to understand, Santa Rosa is large. It encompasses a large area. Large schools, so when they signed up, I wasn't here, but I think clearly you have to understand, no, they did not clearly understand the magnitude of the issue that they were getting into. So now trying to rectify that is really difficult, and even going forward. But every other district, they're smaller. They're a lot smaller than, we are, and they don't have as many transportation issues as we do.
Actually, in preparation for this presentation, we spoke yesterday to the Andre's equivalent in the Cotati-Rona Park, Ann Barron, and asked about some similar issues. And things are different. It's apples to oranges. They have one small route to one of their schools for gen ed students. Otherwise, it's just special education only. I mean, we have 18 general education routes to all our schools. None of the other schools have that kind of number. So they're having maybe special ed issues. And she said she doesn't get many calls. They're handled like through a special education thing. We asked her measures of mechanisms of tracking. They don't track them. Occasionally she'll get a call, so research it. And Cotati was the largest district before we came into them, and they're about 19% of the usage. And they don't have a major concern. It doesn't appear to be for them a major factor.
Nor any of the other districts, actually, that are a part of the JPA. It's only Santa Rosa.
I think you're being really generous, Steve, because they knew there's nothing secret about our district. And they literally came after us. They gave us the hard sell for a long time, over and over and over. And so I cut them zero slack on that, I didn't know what I was getting into. And I think that they, frankly, have some real explaining to do about that. And they should be bending over backwards, even if it's at their loss, even if it's at, I don't know, they need to figure out how to fix this. Because we're a big district in Sonoma County. We're not a big district. There are really big districts who do busing. So it gets done somehow, some way. And they knew they should have known what they were getting into, because we're not keeping any secrets here about what our needs. Anyway, Steve, you're doing great. Director Carl.
I'm sorry, you brought that up, and I want to reiterate. We sat in this dais when they were here, and we said, we're doubling, tripling, quadrupling. We're impacting you greatly. Do you have the buses? Do you have the facilities? Do you have the ability to do that? Do you have the bus drivers? With a bunch of first student bus drivers in here saying, we're not going to run for it. We're not going to ask for that job. Which you didn't know whether that was really the case or not. We asked, and we were told that they could. And my feeling is that they were Ace Hardware on the corner, and we turned them into Home Depot, and they don't have the systems or the software or the employees or something to be able to handle it. And they've got to get out there and find it. And that's we're going to be asking, I think, those kinds of operational issues. And President Close is absolutely correct. This is no surprise, and they knew what they were looking for and what they were asking, and perhaps we shouldn't have believed them.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Okay. F4, an action item resolution for issuance of high school district 2017 general obligation refunding bond.
Okay, good evening, Andre Bell, Assistant Superintendent of Business. Basically, this is a request before the board to refund the general obligation bonds that we have for the 2011 and 2013 series when they were issued. the district could save the taxpayers potentially up to $2 million on these refunds over the life and maturity of the bonds. We looked into it and believe it's a great idea for the public and the community at large. Attached are the purchasing agreement, the escrow agreement, and the preliminary official statement, and the resolution that has to be approved by the board to authorize the refund sale of the bonds.
Director Carl?
This is not our first rodeo. We've been through this before.
Yes.
I appreciate that you guys are on top of it and that our consultants are on top of it doing this. It's a tremendous savings. We're doing a good thing for the taxpayers, and so this is very easy to support. And now, having said that, I can't make the motion, but somebody will.
This is my first rodeo, so I'll make the motion. So.
Well, you are.
Or second that motion.
Yeah. Director Pugh beat you to it, so I'll take a motion from Director Pugh and seconded by Director Sheffield.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Could I, just one thing, we do have our bond counsel here, Meredith Johnson, and also Janice Peterson from ISOM Advisors, who came, but they didn't hear. Yeah, they are here, yes. So I would like to acknowledge them.
I'm glad we provided a good show for you here tonight. Okay, F5, public hearing on the annual capital facilities and developer fee report. So I will open the public hearing and close the public hearing. F6, action item, approval of annual capital facilities and developer fee report and resolution.
Okay, once again, Andre Bell, but we have where the state has increased the allocation for developer fees going in, they increased them in 2016. So tonight we're bringing before you the request to increase the developer fees based upon the studies, which will actually increase funding from developments in the area of Santa Rosa, so commercial as well as residential.
Director Pugh.
Is the amount quoted in the report the maximum amount that we can charge?
Yes, sir, based upon our, no, wait a minute. Is it based upon our districts? Yes, that's the maximum amount we can charge in the report.
All right, thank you.
Director Fong.
So it's my first rodeo on this one. So I read that it was a 30%, 70% split between the elementary districts who got 70%, right? And the high school district, which got 30%. Who sets that percentage?
Okay, this was an agreement that was made between feeder high school district, feeder elementary school districts and high school districts. And as you probably know, there's more elementary school districts in the county, so therefore that split was like 70%, but that 70%, this doesn't go to Santa Rosa City Schools. That would go to any school, elementary schools that were in the area of the development. So it's all split of that 70% through those three districts.
So that decision is years ago, water under the bridge?
Pardon me?
That decision has been a long time, was made a long time ago?
Yes, ma'am. As I looked at it, it's been in process for about, last 10 years. So that was negotiated a while ago.
Who's in charge of that?
I would probably assume that we are in charge as well as all the other districts to negotiate the fees. These were negotiated fees between all the districts in Santa Rosa, actually, and that's what they came up with as a split. But I can look back into who's in charge. I'm not really sure who's in charge. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll check back to see when this was basically chartered and how those divisions were developed. the 3070.
The reason why I'm asking is because, of course, we're the only high school district, and high schools are much more expensive than elementary schools, and we probably have in high schools, we have more kids than elementary schools, so it doesn't seem that it makes logical sense that it's that 30-70 split. So I'm just wondering where that came from and if we can change that at all.
I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Director Christoff?
Andre, I'm directing this at the senior members of the board rather than you. When we have developer fees, we've never built a new school with developer fees, have we? This is just money that comes in and it goes into this fund. How much flexibility do we have with this fund? Does it just go to facilities, or can we put it back in the general fund, or?
Go ahead.
So they're specifically for growth. So it's not, and it's not enough money at all for a new school.
Okay.
So
we obviously can put a new roof on a school, even if it's an old school?
no,
So, I'm sorry, so for growth?
growth. So portables. You could maybe add a classroom to an existing building, right?
Okay.
The multi-purpose room.
It's about growth.
The multi-purpose room at the Charter School for the Arts was paid out of developer fees because of growth there.
Okay, so the criteria are pretty specific then on that, okay.
Yeah, the concept is, in order for it to be a legitimate legal cost or legal tax, there has to be a nexus associated with what has caused a quote problem. You get the money, and then you use the money directly related to what that problem was. And that problem is growth, so there's additional people. So what do you have to do to your facilities to be able to support that? I.e. a portable, because we just picked up 40 more people from that subdivision, 40 more students, and we don't have the facilities to do that, so we go buy a portable with it. In the end, as you see the numbers, less than $1 million in the last 3 years. And of course, from 2006 to 2012, that was a pittance because nothing was happening. So it doesn't really give us an awful lot. And as a result, it'd be interesting to see historically what it all has been spent on, what it was provided. But it's not a big number.
Okay, but if say Sinead goes through, say we have a couple of big building projects on the west side in the near future, if we were to take all that money from Sinead, it goes into this facilities fund, we could add that to a new school. So in other words, it's growth, so it wouldn't pay for it, but it would be something we could do in addition. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So this is an action item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Carl. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Christoff?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries, and we're moving on to thank you, 7. The resolution requesting fund transfer under Article 16, Section 6 of the state constitution to borrow funds from the Sonoma County Office of Education. I think.
Okay, Andre Bell again, and what this resolution, which has been before the board before, is actually given that the timeliness with, or lack of timing, when we receive our property taxes and our cash flow, that something will run into the negative probably, as we project right now, about September. So this allows us to borrow money from the county treasurer, less than 1% interest at that particular point, and it's up to 85% of our total funding, but we've never gotten that far, and basically it's just a stopgap measure until we receive our funding from property tax going forward, and the resolution has to be adopted by the board and then presented to the county office of ed, county treasurer. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Andre. 2 questions. One, in the past we've done it, it's before the end of the fiscal year. This time we're doing it fairly early in the fiscal year. Is there some difference?
No, it's no difference in the timing. It's just, it should be done at the beginning of a fiscal year, just so you have that ready to go. We just starting, so we just got to it, and that's one of the things we need to do.
Fair enough. That answers that very, very quickly. The other question is, do you have a projection as to the amount, of what the cost will be for the period that we're going to need that?
No, not right now, I don't.
Okay. Can we put that on an information, on a G
Yes, sir, I will.
informational item? That would be great.
I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? It's an action item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Christoph, second by Director Anderson. Roll call vote, please.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Pugh? Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Director Carl.
I'm sorry. I apologize that it just occurred to me that we have a student board member, and so on roll calls, we, in the future, should add the student board member for
Who
his
will
vote.
be when he does his oath of office next board
He-
meeting?
Oh, because
hasn't, yeah.
he's not really here tonight.
No.
I see.
He's just like
Okay.
a special guest
I
star
got it.
tonight.
Perfect. There we go.
Special guest.
Got it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Very sharp, though, Director Carl. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.